everyone, this is Marina chiming in on multimodal assignments and how they can be used for equity-based instruction, which adds to student engagement as well as equity. So multimodal assignments are just assignments that you can give your students options with which to submit into discussion forum posts, or at least that's how I use it. So instead of asking students in discussion forums to type information in their responses or examine case studies or respond to a reading, they could submit it multimodally, which means they could choose to write it out, type it up, or they could use video or audio or a podcast or a PowerPoint presentation and so forth. So we're giving students choices. And in giving students choices and how they're submitting their work, this contributes to their agency as well as their self-efficacy. Every student has a different learning style. And we talk a lot about how to teach appealing to every single student's learning style. In addition, we can also consider how we're allowing students to submit their assignments to us, because not everybody writes well, or not everybody can express themselves in writing as well as they can verbally, let's say. Multimodal assignments are equitable in that they also allow weaker or more inexperienced writers the opportunity to shine through creativity and uniqueness, as well as the modes that work best for them to express themselves. And this is really important when it comes to equity. These are the different multimodal texts you could give your students as options. You have alphabetic text, which is the traditional way of writing, typing up stuff in Word, whatever. You have videos, you have audio, you have PowerPoint, and other creative modes that exist out there. Drawings, poems, songs, rap, comics, memes, posters, and podcasts. There are actually a lot of articles about how faculty are using podcasts in their composition classrooms, their history classrooms, their math classrooms. So if you think this is like a big deal and you have to teach students technology, that's not true at all. I don't teach my students technology. I teach them writing and literature and women's studies. All I do is I post this announcement in my orientation folder, and I let them know that they can submit their low stakes assignments through multimodal options. They cannot submit it for paper 1, 2, 3, and the annotated bibliography. Those are still submitted through the traditional means of text, writing it out, alphabetic texts. But I tell them, like, I am a writer, so I like writing things out. That's more comfortable for me, as you can tell from my video presentation. But other students can present their ideas in a better way, through a different mode. They could do graphic novels, storybooks, podcasts. And as you can see, this is it. This is the announcement that I give them. And I give them links if they want to figure out like how to do something. I also provide them links with how to upload videos to YouTube and Zoom and Screencastify. But that's about as far as I go. Everything else is up to them. It's their choice. So I have one example that I'm bringing to you. The students are given 12 questions related to reading Nella Larsen's Passing, which is a novel, in my American literature class. And they have to choose one of those questions. So these 3 students are all choosing different questions. This is Emily, and she's just doing a picture of herself with audio.
There is a scene in part 1 where Claire Kendry invites 2 childhood friends, Irene and Gertrude, to tea. The 3 of them together represent the spectrum of which African American people sometimes take part in passing, and their views on.
That's just her reading out from her notes. So she did actually have to write out her stuff, and she's reading it, and she's very expressive in her reading. So that's one choice that she opted for. And this is Gavin.
I chose to respond to prompt 11, which is, what is the significance of the open ending in passing? Why does Larsen choose to include such an ending, and why does she refuse to clarify the identity of the murderer? Passing, as I'm sure everyone can agree, leaves the readers on an ending that might surprise, confuse, and provide questions with no answer. Irene's lack of clear recollection of the scene leaves the murderer clean off the hook, at least to the reader.
So that's Gavin, and then this is my favorite, and try to guess why it's my favorite.
Irene married for security, her sons and financial stability, both things men were supposed to provide as breadwinners of the household. She was to him only a mother of his sons. They had separate bedrooms, and while they had children, they were to each other co-parents, not sexual partners. Both Claire and Irene married their partners for a higher status within society. Claire's husband, John, being a white, racist, wealthy man, and Irene's husband being a black doctor. A difference within...
So this is a great example of equity and how it kind of plays out with multimodal assignments. Emily and Gavin are stellar writers. All three are high school students, by the way. Emily and Gavin are they're all high school students. Emily and Gavin, are stellar students. And their writing is all A kind of based, right? Their analysis is amazing, and whatever their background is with their education, they have the skills to commit to college level writing. Valerie here, I've had Valerie in 2 different courses, this 232 as well as my women's studies class currently. And her writing is not that great. Usually she ends up with like C grades if she submits writing because of the grammar, because of syntax, because of awkward phrasing, because of fragments, etc. However, she is a very brilliant student, and when you get her on video or audio and she is talking about her ideas and relating to the literature that she's reading, she is a powerhouse. And this is one of my favorite examples for the multimodal assignments and how they work in equity, because her background with writing is not very good. However, she's immensely creative. She's very passionate. And she's brilliant. So these multimodal assignments kind of work for her in a very way, because she can show through her creativity as well as not through the writing, but also through her verbal responses, that she is reading, that she is understanding the material, that she is showing her mastery of the content in the course, but through a different mode that works best for her. Some student testimonials, I'm not going to read all of them, but this one says that he gets bored of always doing assignments in written form, which is a very common response that I've gotten from my students. Just like we get bored and inundated with reading written material, they get bored and being forced to write in the same way all the time. Another student kind of said the same thing. Writing at the assignment is typically the only accepted format. And this is an interesting factor, because technologically we are so beyond that. And the fact that we still rely so heavily on written format is kind of detrimental to many of our students. And this one says that she prefers to write out her ideas, but she also enjoyed the multimodal options because she was able to show off her personality a little bit, and it had her get to know her classmates a little better. So I think that's kind of like where class peer engagement comes in. Addressing naysayers. These are the perceived issues. One is assessment. How do you assess multimodal assignments when they are submitted with written assignments? In the same way. My rubrics for my discussion posts are you have to do the reading, you have to show me that you're reading, you have to summarize, you have to analyze the text, and you have to bring in quotes kind of from the text. So as long as I hear that in the audio, or I hear and see it in your video or in your PowerPoint presentation, then you get rated in the same way someone is writing something out. Some people think that it's a shortcut. Multimodal assignments are shortcuts to traditional writing, and that's not true, because I have so many examples of multimodal assignments where the students have done so much work. They put so much time and so much effort. Videos, Gavin's video was like 7 minutes long. Emily's was 5. Valerie's was almost 4 minutes of just really articulating and expressing verbally their mastery of the content. So it's actually more work to commit to multimodal assignments because you also have to show mastery of whatever technological tool you're adopting to commit to the work. Too much work for the instructor? Not at all. Really, the only thing that I did was I had that one announcement at the beginning of the semester, and then the rest of my Sakai site is just filled with my content. Cannot work in my subject? That is also not true. It lends itself really well to the courses that I teach, literature, writing, and women's studies in particular. But there's a lot of scholarship that I've come across in my research that shows multimodal projects taking the place of traditional research papers, actually, in all content courses, including history, mathematics, science, and so forth. So there's a lot of innovation going on with multimodal assignments, not just for equity, but as well as for engagement, student engagement, and meeting them at the plane that they're in because they're technologically savvy, more so than I am. So we're meeting them where they are outside of the classroom. So multimodal assignments, they provide students with options to submit work in the ways in which they express themselves best. It's unfair for us to keep requiring them to express themselves in a traditional manner that doesn't really appeal to their learning or expressive methods. It removes the monotony of traditional text-centered writing and discussion forums, and it does this for us as well. I can't explain to you how exciting it is for me to be grading all this like written content, and boom, all of a sudden I get a PowerPoint presentation. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Or I get a video, oh my God. And then Valerie's drawing pictures of the novel. It's just so much fun. I can't even tell you. I mean, you see it, but okay. It allows for creativity and individuality, and I think this isn't my favorite thing because all our students are different. They're not one size fits all, and learning should not be one size fits all either. And them expressing their mastery of content to us should also not be one size fits all. Traditional writing can be seen as a gatekeeper, acting as a barrier to marginalized groups. Therefore, multimodal assignments allow inexperienced writers to express their mastery of content in a variety of ways centered on their strengths. And my example is recently, this guy defended his dissertation in rap. I mean, how cool is that? That's where we are. That's exciting to me. And then lastly, this is just like a couple of minutes of my SOTO presentation. This is from my SOTO presentation, which I will be presenting in the fall. And that's it. If you have any questions about multimodal assignments, I have tons of research. I have tons of information for you. So just let me know. Thanks for hearing me out and have fun. Bye.